Have you ever stopped to think about how a culture, or really any community, manages to survive when it feels like the entire world is stacked against them? Well, today we're digging into this powerful blueprint for survival that comes from three incredible ancient stories: Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. What's so cool is that when you look at them together, they create this step-by-step guide for not just enduring, but actually thriving against impossible odds. So let's unpack it.
So, here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the crisis, with the people on the absolute brink. Then, we'll see how Ezra starts rebuilding from the inside out. After that, Nehemiah comes in and shows us what holiness in our daily work looks like. And finally, Esther's story. Well, that's about surviving the unthinkable. And by the end, you'll see exactly how these three pieces just lock together to form one timeless strategy.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're in post-exile Jerusalem. The people of Israel have been completely hammered by the superpower of the day, Babylon. I mean, their city is in ruins, the temple is just a pile of rocks, and they are struggling for decades just to piece their community and their very identity back together again.
Hanging on by their fingernails. That's how our source material puts it, and wow, that is such a vivid picture. This wasn't just a community going through a rough patch. This was a culture on the verge of literally disappearing from history. Survival was not a given, not at all.
Now, what's really fascinating is how the danger is framed. The idea here is that a community's identity is always under threat, and these threats come in two main flavors. You've got the obvious one, right? The hostile assault, the enemy at the gates. But then there's the other one, the sneakier one, the subtle seduction, the smiling temptation that just quietly eats away at who you are from the inside.
And that internal threat, that subtle decay, that's exactly where our first hero, Ezra, steps onto the stage. He shows up and finds a people who have basically forgotten who they even are. So his mission isn't to fight some big army. Nope, it's to rebuild their cultural and spiritual foundation from square one. Ezra's solution was just brilliant in its simplicity. He zeroed in on two core things. First, worship. He saw it as this all-in act that deeply embeds a community's identity. And second, the text. Engaging with Scripture not as some dusty history book, but as a living guide for how to stay connected to God. This was step one, the absolute essential first move.
Okay, so Ezra's reestablished that spiritual foundation. Things are looking up. But a new internal threat starts to creep in. This one's a lot more subtle. It's this tendency we all have to chop our lives up into separate little boxes, and that kind of division can really weaken a community.
You know this divide, right? We see it all the time. This idea that some work is sacred, pastors, missionaries, and then all the other work is just secular, lawyers, farmers, engineers. Our source here is really clear. This is a false and honestly a damaging way to see the world. In fact, the Bible actually pushes back hard against this kind of thinking.
And this brings us to this amazing idea called vocational holiness. It's the concept that all legitimate work is, in its essence, holy. It doesn't matter if you're working with people or with spreadsheets, it all contributes to this whole coherent life that has real purpose. And nobody embodies this idea better than our second guy, Nehemiah.
And here's that partnership in action. You've got Ezra, the scholar. His materials are texts and scripture. Then you have Nehemiah, the builder, the contractor. His materials are stones and mortar. See, one job isn't holier than the other. They were both absolutely essential to the mission. Ezra rebuilt the people's spirit, and Nehemiah rebuilt the city's walls. The community needed both to survive.
So, the internal foundations are getting stronger, and people are starting to see their daily lives as sacred. But now the community faces the most direct threat yet. A full-on, hostile assault from the outside, a plot to completely wipe them off the face of the earth.
The book of Esther just lays this terrifying plot out in no uncertain terms. This wasn't just another battle. This was a plan for genocide, targeting every single exiled Jew living in the entire Persian Empire. I mean, the stakes just could not have been higher.
The whole drama really spins around three key players. You've got Mordecai, who's the story's anchor. He's solid, faithful, sane. Then you have Haman, the absolute villain, the arrogant mastermind behind the whole evil plot. And caught right in the middle is Esther, who has to step out of the shadows of the royal palace and become the hero her people so desperately need.
And through Esther's incredible courage, the entire scheme gets flipped on its head. Her story delivers this final, definitive message that just echoes through the ages. You can't eliminate God's people. It's this powerful declaration that no matter how great the threat, no matter who the enemy is, the community will endure.
So here's the big takeaway. These three stories, they aren't just separate, inspiring tales. They're actually a single, cohesive, three-part blueprint for how a culture can hold on and preserve its identity against any threat, whether it comes from the inside or the outside.
So here it is, the blueprint in 3 simple parts. First, you start from within. Know who you are. Rebuild that core identity through worship and the text, just like Ezra did. Then, you move outward. Live it out everywhere. Integrate that identity into every part of your life and work, like Nehemiah. And finally, you have to be ready. Defend that identity with courage when it's under attack, just like Esther.
This ancient blueprint is just such a powerful lesson for any of us, for any group trying to hold on to who they are today. And it really leaves us with a critical question to think about. In our own lives and in our own communities, what are the essential foundations that we're rebuilding right now?